Welcome to this special feature, The Women Are Talking. For the next 45 minutes, a number of women with remarkable stories will tell the different routes they have used in order to arrive at the destination they have always envisioned. Others who are still en route will convey admirable experiences that will only be taken by the valiant. This story is an independent work on the situation of women, facilitated by Sierra Leone and the United States through the national broadcaster of Sierra Leone and the American Embassy in Freetown. Welcome.
We country slow. We want for no. Why not they roll?
Sierra Leone, the land of the Lion Mountains on the west coast of Africa. This country, with its close to 6 million people, is dominated by the young, which makes up about 65% of the entire population. The country is dominated by women, and over the years, these women have come to represent the friendly and maternal nature with which Sierra Leone is viewed all over the world. The women of Sierra Leone have been long regarded as the reason for the sustenance of what is the Sierra Leoneanness in the Sierra Leonean. They are often in huge numbers in every sphere of life. In the home, they are the child bearers, rearers and carers. They maintain the home by cooking and effecting all other domestic activities. They are usually the caretakers of huge family firms in the rural areas. And they form 90% of market traders. Until recently, their numbers were scarce in schools, and they often make up only a fraction of students peopling the universities. Despite the physical hard work to which they have been exposed, they have continued to rank highly amongst the world's poor, uneducated, and ill-treated. Their numbers have not helped them climb out of the pre-colonial decadence that their gender placed them. Added to all this also is the existence of age-old norms with which they have had to contend from time immemorial. They also suffer from varying abuses, ranging from deprivation of formal education and in some instances used as commodities in commercial transactions when they are given away into marriage in order to settle domestic economic difficulties.
Well, growing up as a little girl, being born in a family where your father has 4 wives, was not an easy task. And so, because of the poverty, in Sierra Leone, when the family has meager resources, they prefer to send the boys to school because they tell us sending the girl child to school is a waste of time. And so growing up at the age of 13, I was asked to marry my Quranic instructor, and he was about 60 to 70 years while I was only 13. So I had to run away from home. As a teenager, you look for love and acceptance. You want to belong. These are the things that cause teenage pregnancy, because when it is not in the house, when it's not in the home, when you don't find it in people around you, you tend to give it in to anybody that will just open their arms, indeceit it, telling you all sort of story that I will take care of you, I will help you, I will this, I will that, and then you just fall into the wrong hands.
With the interest of the women in mind, I took a trip to the United States of America, with funds provided by the United States State Department through its embassy in Freetown, Sierra Leone. In the United States, the journey started in New York. This ship is in support of the women, the mothers, sisters, wives and daughters of this world. This is to investigate the roots to their social, economic, and political advancement. In Sierra Leone, the women have always clamored for such advancements. They have worked towards them, but would only wait for results of such hard work. Women have the natural power to change the world. Their very being is an epitome of sincerity, and this radiates even when they empathize or sympathize. They are able to defrost the usual frigidity within the political spectrum. Most of all, they bring maternity and civility to the table, and they change the conversation. The social structure in the United States of America brings some differences, although some people prefer to say it depends on who you talk to, because it could be heard. There are times when some people find themselves down and out, or lost on life's narrow streets. But the burning desire for success or just the best out of life makes each street as good as another, as the story of young Lorna Contreras. She almost gave up in life, but today she serves as a community service manager with Students Rising Above, an organization of selflessness providing guidance and services to young women for preparation for the world outside childhood.
It started when I was about 17 years old. Someone handed me a yellow piece of paper, I remember that very vividly, and said, "You qualify for this program, apply." And at that point, I had never had the support of any of my family members telling me that you can go to college, it's a possibility for you. I knew education was important, but I didn't have that guidance. And so I went home, I filled out the application, next thing I know, I'm a recipient of the program. And I'd grown up most of my life having to raise myself and my parents. My father was a POW coming from his country in Guatemala. At the age of 8, my mother suffered a very severe stroke that left her completely paralyzed on her right hand, on her right side of her body. And that was the moment when my father also could not hold it together. And paying bills became an issue. Neither one of my parents was working. I was having to find help and resources myself to make sure that my family stayed intact. And luckily I had a lot of support at school, and entering into the Students Rising Above program completely changed my life.
Difficulties exist for women in Sierra Leone to rise above the usual terminal levels that the unwritten gender roles have created and approved over the years. Only few African women have dared to rise up to such challenges, going past the several barriers on the way. In the military, for instance, it was once out of place or character to imagine or suggest higher ranks to be filled by women.
Leading the all-female guard is Major Mariatu.
But such feeble preventive measures based solely on gender differences seem to have been gracefully washed away with time and modernization. Now, women could not only dare to dream of going up the ranks, they could also actually go all the way. Castoria Kabia is the first woman in West Africa to rise to the rank of brigadier in the military.
The then President of Sierra Leone, Dr. Shaka P. Stevens, wanted to have women in the military, and there were notices in the newspaper for women to apply to become officer cadets, and I took advantage of that and applied. I was successful, and I became one of the 2 young women who were sent to the Women's Royal Army Corps College in England to train as officer cadets. We were enlisted on the 29th of March 1978. We spent about 3 weeks having basic military training in Benguima Training Center, and then we went to England sometime in April and started a military training there. We returned in December 1978 and we started full-time work January 1979. Most of the young women, even now, they tend to believe that the army is a difficult place for women and most of them are not willing to come in.
Dr. Bernadette Lahai is a member of Sierra Leone's oldest party, the Sierra Leone People's Party. She is also her party's leader in parliament, thereby becoming the first female minority leader of parliament in democratic Sierra Leone.
We have had many women also of substance, most of them are no longer, who also played a very key role, especially in the independence struggle, but also a key role in pushing and selling the idea that women and men should work side by side. Women like the late Madam Ella Kobolo Gulama and a host of other women. And today we thrive under their legacy. So especially the politics we know today, wherein, for a long time, the number of women in parliament was not only small, but even in the political parties, women were found at the lower rungs of the political party, maybe giving support to men, but not actually being in the mainstream political party structures. So this is a glass-breaking, gender glass-breaking achievement. It's not only for me, but for a lot of women. And because I'm the first woman to have ever occupied this position, it comes with tremendous challenges. Challenges that some of you, that listeners and viewers are aware of, especially the current impasse within the party.
Stereotyping is one of the major stumbling blocks preventing women from rising above the usual heights they do. But this has not disarmed them from their bigger minds to see the broader picture. So after many years of setbacks caused by deliberate strangulations and deprivations due to presumed cowardice by their male folks, sometimes presumed to be petrified and unprepared for the seeming competitive poise by their female counterparts.
Men and women have equal right to participate in politics. Our main focus has been on training, because you know that women do not, in the political field is a new game for women. Women are not accustomed to taking part in politics. They have always perceived politics as the preserve of men. So we have consciously organized training sessions to encourage women to participate in politics. We want them to understand. We start by telling them what the barriers are, how to break those barriers, how to join a political party, how to campaign, how to speak in public, how to use the media, all the basic skills in political participation we give them. When we started, there were only 6 or 8 women in parliament. After the first elections, it increased to 18. It came down again because it's now forced part of the post system, and we have only about 14 women in parliament. But the struggle continues, and we are fighting for at least 30% quota, as is mandated in many of the international instruments.
Rolling Start is an organization that inspires a new generation of young women to step up and become leaders in the political arena, which it calls the most influential arena in the world.
I'm Avery Bourne. I'm from Pawnee, Illinois. I will graduate in May from Columbia College in Columbia, Missouri. I will go back home and start the process to run for precinct committeeman, and I'll be attending Washington University Law School in the fall.
My name is Asia Turner, and I graduated from Spelman College in May in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm currently interning for Congresswoman Barbara Lee out of California.
Hi everybody, my name is Stephanie. I'm from Williamstown, Massachusetts. Thank you. I graduated from Siena College in May, and I currently intern in the office of Congresswoman Jackie Spear.
And I'm Antonia Okafor, and I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I just graduated from the University of Texas at Dallas. I'm currently interning with Senator Kelly Ayotte.
Hi everyone, I'm Victoria Sanchez. I'm from Austin, Texas, and I just graduated from Yale in December. I am interning I'm interning in Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz's office at the Democratic National Committee.
My name is Julie Kim, and I'm from Queens, New York. I recently graduated in May from Carnegie Mellon University. Right now, I'm currently interning at Congresswoman Grace Meng's office.
Hi, I'm Nakia Matthews, and I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I recently finished up at Chestnut Hill College, and I'm interning in the office of Congresswoman Yvette Clarke.
In the view of Running Start, which mentors young professional women from all over the United States of America, women and their maternal nature bring a different attitude and change the conversation.
When you look at mayors of the 100 largest cities in America, there are only 12 women mayors. Hopefully in November we'll add one more in Washington.
Yes, there is absolutely an insufficiency of women in governance. And I think if you asked most Americans about this question and said, you know, do you think there are enough women in politics or in government, they'd probably say yes. There are plenty. You know, we have Hillary Clinton, we have Nancy Pelosi, who is leading the House of Representatives. It looks often like there are lots of women, but when you break down the numbers, we are still at 18%, which is a very small number. And when you compare us to the rest of the world, we're doing terribly. Depending on the day, we're either 83rd or 90th in the world in terms of the number of women we have in our legislature. I think a lot of people would say that it is discrimination against women, and certainly in some countries there are lots of barriers to women winning elections and actually being promoted as leaders. I actually think it goes much deeper than that. I think that it is not so much the external barriers that keep women out of leadership. I think a lot of what we don't talk about so much is the internal barriers that make women not think of themselves as leaders, not consider running for political office, not feel like they have a voice or that they can be problem solvers. And so a lot of the training that we do, what we're trying to do is tell women at a very early age, if there's a problem that you see and you want to solve that problem, you can do it. Even if you're not powerful, even if you don't have a lot of money or a lot of connections, we can teach you to have a voice that other people listen to, and we can show you what that path is to politics.
For the past decade, Sierra Leone, with its entrenched African traditions and cultures, has left women to endure myriads of difficulties in their ascension to positions of authority. The society has always been a men's enclave. Men have always had it as a birthright, or that's the thinking, and their accession to position have always been quite leisurely. Women who have tried to do the same have often failed. For them, it takes education and endurance to withstand the challenges informally established by years of male chauvinism, gender stereotyping, and macabre beams of demarcation now set to fall.
There is this perception that we are where we are, in very high positions, just because we are merely women. And I have had men say that to me, that you are just a woman. And I think for most of us who are in positions, we want to be able to attain those positions based purely on merit. But I'm pleased to say that this is gradually changing. I think that because of the contribution of many of the women and many of the women who work in this institution, our male counterparts are now realizing that we're here solely on merit, and that the women are a valuable contribution to the development and to the progress of this institution particularly.
High on the agenda of the All Women's 50-50 organization is the promotion of qualified women to political positions. Its founder and first president is Dr. Nimata Majex Walker, a Sierra Leonean woman who has spent the past 2 decades traversing the continent with an unchanging message for the emancipation and empowerment of women. Her conviction about the importance of having women in the machinery of the running of the state remains firmly rooted in the existing equilibrium as far as gender mental parity is concerned.
Now women are coming forward, and I want to tell you that women are now winning elections on an independent ticket. You know that there is customary law, and you know that people feel that a woman's place is in the home, and we in the 50-50 group, we say a woman's place is as much in governance as it is in the home. We are not negating our role as wives. We believe that we can play both roles equally. Okay. We can do, and we can do both effectively. So tradition and culture, we don't allow it to come our way, although it is there. We try to, what we do is to try to get the traditional leaders to understand our message, and many of them are on our side. Men use a lot of bad language against them. They intimidate them. They bring out their power society. They do all sorts of things to get women to stop. Now we have empowered them. Now the women of Sierra Leone have a voice. They now know that it is their right to take part, and they don't allow anything to deter them.
The dreams of the 50-50 founder are quite similar to those deeply rooted in the hearts of younger and even modern women.
Because I knew my parents' struggles through poverty, through addiction, through having to transition from one country to another, I became interested in politics. And Students Rising Above helped guide me and find opportunities where I could explore what it meant to be a lawyer, for example, for immigrants, or be a marketing guru for a company that engages in social justice. And so I grabbed an opportunity, I made it mine, and I pursued these dreams that I had.
And so right after the GCO level, at age 18, I got pregnant, you know, by someone that was helping, you know. That was a music instructor in the church. I got pregnant and then got out of school. And then it was really not easy. Even at age 18, it was not easy to give birth because my body was still not ready. After giving birth to the child, I made up my mind. I went to the university, you know, and I graduated with in French and sociology, you know. And so today I want to thank God, because you even if you do anything in life, your talent, you know, being a footballer, being a musician, being whatever, but when backed up with education, you know, it makes you powerful. And so today I see myself, you know, very successful because I'm educated and I'm talented. I started in 2003, I think, collaborated with Crystal Weasel, one of the leading gospel artists at that time, you know, and we did an album together. And that was, I was still in the university, and in 2005, I got my first album out. It was a praise and worship one. I just believe in determination. When you believe in who you are, you know, just believe in God first, because He created, or believe in what God says about you, and then believe in yourself that you can do it.
Modern young women are opportuned to early exposure and dependability on their ability as vehicle for the achievement of their aims and aspirations. In the United States, Denise runs an organization known as Let Girls Lead, with headquarters at the Bay Area of Oakland in San Francisco. The idea is to give girls the opportunity to develop self-consciousness and determination amidst lopsided gender preferences in many parts of the world, mostly in so-called third world nations.
When we started working in Malawi in 2010, we had one woman who participated in our program, Joyce, who was one of the founders of an organization called the Girls Empowerment Network. And she came into our program, you know, young woman, very passionate, very excited to do this work, really learned even more how to advocate effectively with and for girls. And what she decided was that she really wanted to engage girls in becoming leaders and in raising their own voices for their own rights. And so what she and her co-founder, Faith, were able to do was a pretty amazing program for girls called the River of Life, where they bring young girls together, as young as 9, to come together, talk about their experiences, talk about their friends' experiences, their hopes, their dreams, their fears, and through this River of Life, using art and poetry and writing, kind of come up with what their vision is for their own future. And I think there are great examples of women and girl leaders who are stepping up and are realizing their own power to create change. And, I mean, the research backs it up too, right? So, the research shows that a girl who goes to school for 7 years will get married 4 years later and have 2.2 fewer children than her next door neighbor down the street who can't go to school. So what that means in terms of girls' health and education is that it's not just about girls, it's about transforming communities and countries.
Let Girls Lead speaks to the young and has helped immensely across nations. This is followed by organized mentoring of young people, with which those who have gone through it are very pleased.
What I do is I work with girls in America. So I tell them about Let Girls Lead, and I'm also going to screen the newest movie, Poder, at my school.
We wanted to change that, but we're just a little too shy and too young to figure it out on our own. Now we had the chance to learn how to make our town a better place for girls.
Since, I think, 2012, the first International Day of the Girl, it actually happened a few days after Malala Yousafzai was tragically injured in Pakistan. I think that was the point that people started to recognize that girls are important and girls are suffering, most importantly. I think since then it's exponentially been increasing in terms of the action that people have been taking to help girls. I'm originally from India, my parents were born there, and seeing the girls when I visit, seeing how much they thrive at school, just something so simple to an American like me, education, something that a lot of people take for granted here. Giving them that little bit of power gives them such confidence, and with confidence you can do anything. Let Girls Lead believes in the promotion of girls. In their view, these future women must be properly equipped for the fastly changing world in which they have a role to play, which must be done with zeal, courage, and the necessary education and experience.
The research also shows that a girl who attends 1 extra year of primary school will eventually earn 20% more annual income. And we also know that girls and women invest 90% of their incomes into their families. So, Ban Ki-moon, the UN, the World Bank have all stated that investing in girls is the #1 most cost-effective strategy to reduce global poverty. And I think there's been a realization and a growing commitment to investing in girls to transform their own lives, their families, their communities, and the world. And at the same time, I think, the resources have not yet followed the research and the rhetoric. So there's this incredible research foundation. There's a lot of talk about girls, but still only 2 cents out of every dollar in international funding goes to programs focusing on girls. So that's an enormous gap between girls' potential and the reality of the money that's going in to support girls' potential. And so that's what we're really about, is trying to change both girls' lives on the ground in the countries that we work in, but even more so, changing the global conversation on girls so that people understand that girls really are leaders and incredible agents of change. And that if we can invest in girls, they can create the changes in their own communities that they need.
In South Central Los Angeles, where Lula Washington trains dancers at a dance school she founded. Like many women, Lula never found things easy in the beginning. Neither did she receive prospects on a silver platter. She dedicated her life to hard work that has paid off. Hers is real success, where her hobby washes up
I wanted to start a place here in Los Angeles where the art of African American people could be preserved through choreography, through art, and through teaching the cultural art of dance, the ballet, the jazz, the tap, the African, the modern, the Caribbean, the hip-hop, the everything-ish of movement could be taught here in this community. That would be a place of spiritual uplifting, cultural enrichment, and a place where our community would feel at home. I don't want people to ever forget the chains, because when you look at what's happening in society, the chains are slowly creeping back in. So once you forget who you are and where you came from, you could easily end up back in the same situation. You know, I'm trying to create the village, and in my village, everybody's supposed to support everybody.
The women are of the thinking that there is no will, because where there is a will, there will be a way. They think men, in their chauvinistic ways, continue to think that it is a world of men and that's that. But the situation is changing, and there are several questions to be answered by the women themselves. First, do women support women?
I think America is ready for more women in politics and more women in leadership. I think we're ready for a woman president. I know we're ready for a woman president, and polls have shown that too. Americans get it. They understand that adding women to leadership is something that helps everybody. And I think maybe 2016 will be the year that we get a woman president in America. Young women coming up, the millennial generation, they have a little bit more confidence and belief in themselves than I've seen in other generations. And I think that the millennials, they may be the ones to really take charge and bring a lot more women to leadership. I think the bets are on Hillary Clinton. I don't know. Running Start is a bipartisan group. We don't take sides as an organization, but personally, yeah. Yes, I love her, and I think she's done good work, especially as Secretary of State.
Susanna's organization, Running Start, believes that women change the conversation in every situation. Their very nature and thoughtfulness is usually an important tool in getting things done in the most civil manner. Welford does not only operate an office in Washington, D.C., it also does annual awards named Women to Watch Annual Awards Ceremony. Such a camaraderie of women for their own sake goes a long way in generating the support needed to clinch electable political positions, as was witnessed in their last award ceremony, where they were pleasantly surprised by the attendance of the Democratic Party's mayoral candidate for District Columbia, Muriel Bowser. She had just come out of the heated of competitions. She had to endure that with her male folks, and she emerged as her party's mayoral representative.
All the funders who make this event possible, thank you very much.
Women are conscious of the determination of their male folks, who have not only been long on the spotlight, but of the nothingness that exists for a reshape of the status quo for their benefit.
Men don't think twice about jumping into a campaign knowing nothing about the issues, and yet women feel that they have to be, have degrees in understanding what the issues are. Secondly, I think we've got to get over the Mother May I syndrome. It is not something you ask permission for, it's something you go for. And one of my favorite T-shirts is one that reads, "Polite women don't make history." And I've never been known to be polite when it comes to making sure that women advance. I'm working on issues today like the issue of military sexual assault, and I call generals out when they do the wrong thing or don't work hard enough at trying to address the issue, and I think that's our job.
When it came to problems like the government shutdown, it really was the women working together to say, okay guys, it's time that we act like adults and get this done, that I think really helped solve an important problem there. And it's an example of how having the leadership of both men and women represented in the Senate is so important.
Because the culture, especially in politics, has been the women have been in the background, So it's not. We are not going to expect that overnight, this stereotype or this perception is going to change. But what is going to make the difference is the few women that are in politics, the difference that they are going to make. the challenges that they are going to pose to men in politics is going to be key in the extent to which men will easily give in.
Amidst all the seeming collaboration in pursuit of their united intentions to have their rightful place in a world that rightfully belongs to all in equal measure, it has to be said that one of the greatest challenges facing women is women themselves. They are the ones who do not support each other, and even they themselves know it.
And one of the reasons why I do the work that I do is to try to show women that we really can do this and do it better. This idea of collaboration, for instance, it's very important. If we want to get somewhere, it's very easy to get from point A to point B if you have two people who are basically helping to carry the load. And I'm not sure where that comes from, other than the fact that we've not had enough practice at doing that. I think one of the other reasons why women behave the way in which they do is that I think we misread what's going on between men because we try to emulate what men are doing. I've seen guys who will, if you're in a competitive match, who will bash each other's brains out and go out and have a beer together afterwards. Women, we lead very much with our hearts and with our feelings as opposed to leading with our heads. We find it difficult to put things down, and I think in a large sense it's because of the fact that we are typically very caring. When we care about something, we care about it deeply. So if we are injured in some way, it takes us a moment to get over it. And I think that if we practice as much as men have been allowed to practice, I think we'll become better at doing it.
It is not that women do not like each other. It is just that they have grown up supporting men, which they still do, even subconsciously. But when assurances of leadership potentials begin to come from the other end, as evidenced in this very short, important comment by a young woman knee-deep in national politics.
It's interesting that you should say that women have to be asked to run for political office 7 times, and many men never have to be asked to run. They just assume that they're the right candidate. And for me, a really key component has been that my father, who was sort of the traditional breadwinner in my family growing up, has told me that I should be involved in politics and that I can run for office and I can win. And actually, my boyfriend texted me yesterday, "You're going to be president one day," just out of the blue. And so for me, even though these seem like small things that I get encouragement from women in my life and men, I think it's really, really important for men to be on board and encourage the women around them to get involved.
Dr. Christiana Thorpe is a former nun and minister of government who has spent the last 10 years conducting national elections in Sierra Leone.
Polling started at 7 a.m. in 95% of polling stations nationwide.
2 of her most trying moments were in 2007 and 2012. Being the first woman to ever hold that position, Dr. Thorpe's exemplary performance proved that what women need is the opportunity to prove their mettle.
I just want to see women empowered. We cannot be almost at the bottom of the development ladder and all our experts are outside. Let us come and develop our country. The men have been in the forefront all the time, but no country can be better than the output of 51%. I think there's great future for women in Sierra Leone if we concentrate in skills development, in education, getting them to understand that, you know, we need to assist the men so that our country can go forward.
When women hold positions, there is less corruption. The women are very focused. They are long-term thinking when it comes to activities, and they are very resourceful, and they also bring in their maternal instinct and maternal initiative in the governance of the country. We also have men that are very positive, men that think that in fact it's high time that we give women also the chance, because according to some men, you know, the economy and the country has been run for men for quite some time, and there are differences, you know, when men and women are in leadership positions.
Social, traditional and cultural diversities have been some of the reasons for the seeming discordance among women. Although such differences are usually treated lightly on the surface, they go a long way in preventing women from gluing their bits and pieces together and creating the synergy needed for the achievement of social, political, and economic advancement of women. Miss America 2014 is a 24-year-old Indian American from Syracuse, Nina DeValori, the first woman of Indian descent to wear that crown. Having had to go through taunts from detractors because of her ancestral heritage, she has made the combating of cultural diversity one of her major projects.
I actually grew up with a lot of stereotypes and misconceptions about my culture. I was born in Syracuse, but my family moved to Oklahoma when I was 4, to Michigan when I was 10. So kind of just everywhere those stereotypes continue to follow me, even when I went to college and university. So to really just advocate for that, to educate people about various cultures, and really form an open, honest line of communication between all people. My entire life, I've always been a leader, I've always been involved in my community, and for me, I started competing for Miss New York 2 years ago. I won the second time, and for it to culminate in the way that it did and to have this opportunity to really bring diversity to the Miss America organization is something that I wanted to promote.
There are situations where girls have inadvertently run off the rails, out of ignorance and perhaps escaped from loneliness. This is sometimes worsened by the lack of support from parents or relations and good intending acquaintances who sometimes let them down.
I just knew there was something in me, that determination. I had a focus. I knew I was going somewhere. I knew there is something greater in me, and so I wanted to be something.
When you come from a low-income environment, there are lots of challenges when you go off to college. So we do assist them with their academic challenges, with financial aid challenges, and also with some personal challenges, because if they do go off to school, to a private school for instance, where they are amongst a lot of high-income students coming from high-income backgrounds, that can be a challenge for them.
Just to reiterate a little something that Barb says, we could drive you in 20 minutes in any direction here, and there's just neighborhoods of poverty. These kids have grown up with nothing. So when they go to college, it really is an enormous sort of opportunity gap in terms of coming from nothing and now competing against kids of real privilege. So part of what we spend so much of our time doing is taking these kids and not just educating them, but helping them sort of really manage the social and the emotional challenges of going to college.
There are women who have proven themselves worthy in precincts considered to be not only male reserved, like cab driving, but it's not unusual to see women proving themselves along that line in the United States, as is the case with Mary, who does cab driving in Washington, D.C. We had this discussed en route to the White House.
I haven't seen any prejudice against hiring women as taxi drivers. In fact, you were encouraged to go ahead and go through the process of becoming a taxi driver, but women don't like the job. You don't find a 50-50 distribution at the top of any company or market of women, and then there's also a discontinuity with the salaries. They don't pay women. I think women make about 85% of what the men make.
The foregoing analysis have come to prove that there is no one way through which the social, political, and economic empowerment of women could be achieved. But if these women are all determined in one way or the other to ensure that they reach their absolute dreams for their total emancipation,
if you're trying to reach a certain goal, that you also consider the people who are around you, because not only are you going to be able to help them, but they're also going to be able to help you.
What we need is conscientization, what we need is education, but at the end of the day, for our young girls that are coming up, I want to say that education is everything, and because education opens doors, education will be the liberating factor, because with education, the sky is your limit. As we normally say, everything you need to know in life and do is locked up in books, and you can only open those golden treasures, when you are educated.
I believe there'll come a day when we have about 30% of women in the military in Sierra Leone. Even if we do not have 30%, whatever increase of percentage is good for women in Sierra Leone.
What we have managed to do in the last 3 years is to ensure that we've met our 30% quota. We would like to have more women in the institution.
From Freetown to New York or Washington to San Francisco or across the beautiful landscapes of Los Angeles in California, it is easy to tell that the stories of women everywhere is like the story of a woman anywhere. And there is one more similarity. They are also united in their quest not to give up, their strive towards their accessing their rightful and deserving positions in the political, social, and economic strata.
I believe that very soon, sooner than later, men and women will be rated equally and will be given equal opportunity in every sphere of life in Sierra Leone.
I think it's particularly important for young people in Sierra Leone and young women to take on that leadership role and to be the face of leadership and to run for political office.
We will never give up. It is our right and we will fight until we get it.
And although no one knows when they shall attain the equality they crave and seek, there are indications the journey on which they long ago embarked is not far away from the end.
Do ya not make us slow? No. If I try for raise the tempo, do ya not make them low? Yes, so before they do them, thing now we go make we gladdy, thing now we go make we happy, thing now we go make we country laddie daddy. So we go live in unity. Yes, so before they do them, thing now we go make we gladdy, thing now we go make we happy, thing now we go make we country laddie daddy. So we go live in harmony. Yes, so